paso chambeando noche y día. Me gustan los locos, hay que adrenalina. Los que también marcan muchos pendientes. Mi mente solo busca hacer billetes.
Allá por el este me ven seguido. Cuarto solo de vida, niño tranquilo. Ponte rezado y bien comedito. Ando placoso como Robert De Niro. Y si me ven en el Rari Ferrari, son tantos que me he chingado para llegar aquí.
Antes no tenía nuevo para zapatos y ahora ando gozando y ando bien maché.
Claro que me llegan los días bien tristes, recuerdo a mis padres que no están aquí.
Okay. Well, here we are once again. Sorry for the delayed broadcast today. I completely forgot that I was supposed to do this. So, I am back from my month-long vacation to Cartagena, Colombia, and lots of research and development was conducted across multiple fronts. Opportunities and sectors were identified, and we are actually going to proceed with perhaps my favorite sector, which is quite well known at this point in the cycle. One that it has been in a drawdown and in a secular decline for upwards of 3 to 4 años now. Yet, if you look at the performance metrics, the only growth, true and organic growth in crypto is the sector we are expanding into. We're going to ride those winners all the way off into the sunset. And of course, I am talking about sensors. Oh, yes. And in particular, it will be GeoNet, Wingbits now being mainnet, and Onacoin is now going to be dual mined with MAST, which is the cargo ship container tracking device. So you have Wingbits and GeoNet partnered, two titans, VC backed, etc. And Onacoin and MAST partnering up on the other side of this. And that is one hell of a matchup. And you know what? Rather than pick sides, we're going to fund both sides of this war. And I find them equally as intriguing, as enticing, with equal amounts of upside over the longer term. If one can remove the protective layers of tribalism that seem to have contaminated so much of this crypto space. This does not mean we're banning proof of work whatsoever. We just have to be very selective in the hardware and the way in which we expand our hardware constellation. And no better fit for constellation of the description than something like SkyMapper and RTK networks and airplane tracking software, what have you. This is stuff that can be deployed globally and uses no electricity. And this actually is a very special broadcast because it marks our first true, by definition, deployment of hardware internationally across 2 countries simultaneously. I'll give you a clue, but I don't want to give it's not hard if you talk to me, anywhere off somewhere like this, you'll know the answers. But we're going to be putting sensors in St. Vincent and in Colombia, both of which have zero coverage of any kind, of any of these sensors. So we will have the hex bonus of being the pioneer or the first person to be there, as well as the numerous other bonuses by covering, places of interest for all 4 of these on-chain corporations, which is a term that I have been using for years, but it seems to be being understood as each passing day takes place in the markets here. What's crazy is when I'm asked to describe it to traditional, market guys, I like to say it's an on-chain corporation, but the equity isn't what you're seeking. It's really the passive flows of the revenue that is upwards of 80% used to open market purchase these tokens, burn them from existence, therefore reducing the supply, kind of giving it a share buyback, preferred share-ish kind of hybrid, the way that the value incrementally accrues. So, it's something worth noting, but I think it's a far superior model to the traditional IPO. Obviously, depending on the sector, depending on the outline strategy of the team. But it's certainly worth betting on, whether that is buying the token itself for proposed future value, or to mine and provide the physical infrastructure required to run these corporations. Either way, there's pros and cons for both. I don't think it's beneficial to ignore it, whether you're a proof of stake idiot or a proof of work maxi. I just think, again, I've said this for years, long before I deleted all the other interviews and everything else I did on the channel before, which was a terrible mistake. Hitting that nuclear reset button was really terrible, I think, for a lot of things, but that's a thing of the past, I guess. So here we are restarting. For example, every transaction, every burn, every piece of revenue, it's all instantly auditable. You don't have to trust this corporation like you do when I'm listening to an earnings call and kind of estimate and evaluate it. Are they using GAAP earnings, whatever? It's realized annual recurring revenue is defined. It is on the chain. You can see these transactions being burned, and it's not hard to envision that this becomes the future of how corporations lay out their structure, and whether it's bond or financing, whether it is token issuance or burning. There is no more kind of human error when everything's on the chain. For example, Wingbits just went mainnet. They did a $18,000 burn of tokens for revenue. That was instantly verifiable on chain. So whether it's proof of stake, whether it's not, it doesn't matter. That public ledger and instant auditability is truly a factor that is undervalued criminally by the markets now, and that's really not my problem. Our thing is to get in early, understand it before most people do, and hopefully we can, count some chips at the poker table on the way out. It's certainly a complex sector, as we all know. Sometimes the outcomes we think are inevitable end up, getting blown out of the water, and the evil scam to end up outperforming. And unfortunately, sometimes the fundamentals are ignored until they cannot be. So with this international expansion, be about 10 sensors in total across these two countries, and it will be plugged into our cloud network. It is all shareholders. Now, interesting to note, in Colombia in particular, electricity is over double the price it is here. So talking over 30 cents United States kilowatt hour. Here is, it used to be 7 or 8 when we first started. Now it's upwards of 15, which is when we first started what the States was paying our American counterparts and fellow participants and colleagues. Because I wouldn't come to the competition. They taught me everything I know, but they were paying that price years ago. So it's funny how now we are paying what the United States used to pay because of the carbon tax, and it continues to increase annually, which annually makes it more and more difficult to mine in Canada, which is, again, so counterintuitive. because you're pricing out electronic consumption or consumption of electricity of your own citizens. Well, of course, it's going to flow to where it is cheaper. You'd almost think this policy is so bad it was done by design. That's a story for another time. But I can only imagine what some of the American rates are right now. I assume it hasn't gotten any better. But so these sensors are really the only optionality we have to expand internationally the way that I would like to, with trustworthy shareholders, et cetera. And in that sense, it's the equivalent of having a light bulb on, and you are securing this digital infrastructure for corporations. So it's kind of, just someone who's not kind of well versed in crypto, it's proof of work on a proof of stake chain. So it's kind of, I know, it's really kind of pushing the definition of mining, quote unquote. But that being said, we have not abandoned any of our proof of work efforts. We anxiously await Nexa's FPGA transition once the algorithm is perfected and rolled out by Stone and other devs for the Nexa project. And that's going to really revolutionize the coin as a whole and the emission schedule. We have two E300s that we can't wait to fire back up again and take the dust off those things. For those that don't know, that is a field programmable gate array, right? Military radar chip, basically. It's a Xilinx chip, it's AMD chip. Great chips, but they have a history of back in the day, and the reason we bought them was go CPU, GPU, FPGA right in the middle there, and then the ASIC chips come out and dominate these networks. So the FPGA was always kind of that bridge to get us that extra yield right at the end. And it worked famously for a number of projects. For something like Caspa was responsible for the majority of our holdings that we did yield and currently still have. So it'll be nice. And again, I find it absolutely brilliant. The fact that they decided to do this. And again, Nexa's work, the white paper, I mean, it is absolutely mind-blowing research they're doing. Whether you invest in this stuff or not, you just really can't put a price on some of the real innovation that still continues in this place, whether it is Armada with Ergo, the team in Nexa, whether it is what was already been achieved with Bitcoin Cash, what continues to happen with Caspa, Shifu over at Warthog, regardless of market cap, regardless of price, directionality of overall market caps, all this stuff. You look at what's going on there, and you look at these super small teams that are doing. Again, we can't forget about Kadena, obviously, and the packed algorithm. This is innovation. This is absolutely cutting edge stuff. And proof of stake is a scam. So, it's never going to change. And, what is the difference between Avalanche and Peak and Ethereum and Solana? There's no fucking difference. They are garbage. All of them. Polkadot, Cardano. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. I'll give you an example. Export A in Canada. Okay. They have 7 different flavors. I like the green ones, the strong ones. The other 6 flavors are slightly different, slightly lighter, slightly smoother. Okay? It's all the same brand. And it's no different with any proof of stake network. They're all the same. This one might be a little faster. Oh, this one is infinite supply. Oh, this one has a higher yield when you stake it. This one has a lower inflation rate. They're all the same garbage copy and paste version of one another based off Ethereum. EVM compatible because they are the same. Okay. When you compare next to Casper. They are completely different fucking algorithms with different teams. And a lot of people, when AI kind of with this ridiculous shit, all these guys, oh, AI is this and that, and it's going to change. Oh God, here we go. Right? When they said this, right, it makes productive people more productive, lazy people more lazy. That's with anything in the world. What it's done for blockchain is take these obscure corners of programmers and these hardcore ideologies in far corners of the world and allowed one man to be as productive as 10 or 20 guys by having the monotonous and repetitive tasks being done by AI. Perhaps some of the critical thinking being automated as well, if it is redundant. And on the other side of that, these projects, regardless of hash rate going up or down, regardless of price going up or down, regardless of market sentiment, et cetera, total volume on these stupid exchanges, or perhaps being delisted entirely, the innovation has continued on the chain itself. And that's all that matters. And I find nobody pays attention to that. No one cares about the guys, the mechanics, truly doing the fucking work. And that's the people that I respect in the space. I am certainly not a Neo who can see everything in the Matrix writing. Okay, but I saw a meme on Twitter today where the guy asked AI the first question, who is Jason? That's a joke, right? And that's 100% me. I've always wanted to know who Jason is. But in all seriousness, these guys just do exceptional work. And if you don't respect it, or if you don't even know where to look, it's very hard to overlook, very easy to overlook this stuff. So, when we look at overall total emissions, the aging of these networks, the innovation has not stopped at that age. Only the ability of the scammers to suck capital out of the market, because there is none anymore. There is no speculation. There is no new blockchains. What was that? That Pearl AI? Oh, we're going to use proof of use for it. Oh, dear God. Essentially, only after Dynex, there's nothing there. There's nothing worth looking at. It's all junk. There's nothing. There's no new projects. The winners and the losers have already been defined. Question is, how large of a margin between the already identified survivors? How far of a gap is it going to be from first to fifth place? Right? How far is Casper going to exceed next, or vice versa? Right? I'm just using examples here. That's really the only thing. And I always use the meme of the poker game taking place at the bottom of the pool with the scuba divers. That's essentially this position we're all in right now. But I remember, long time ago, when Bitcoin was nothing, when a CD player or an iPod was cutting edge technology. I mean, I thought Bitcoin was just this space age, and just finding someone who even knew how to use a computer back then was a task in and of itself. And obviously those opportunities have passed us all by in retrospect, obvious, right? But I kind of feel the same way now, except kind of on the inside now, and that's how we should all feel, is that we are privy to something that still 15 years into the blockchain experiment, most of the world completely discounts or still pretends it just doesn't exist, even though Bitcoin is the best asset class, was the best asset to own in history, especially in the last 20, 30 years. If you're a pensioner, all you have to do is buy that and you're fine. Now, obviously, risk-adjusted return, the Sharpe ratio, that we could get into those details. What I'm saying is to blanketly assume that no other proof of work algorithm could possibly do what the equivalent of Blockbuster has already done, right? You can't put a smart contract on Bitcoin. You can't do shit with it. It's still trillions of dollars, right? To assume that no improvements on that could be nearly as successful or as embraced by the world, I would say it's pretty obvious that it's equally as misunderstood as the original. And we don't know what the sequel will be. Who, what, where, when, why, or how is the debate. And how much capital to allocate to each one to have a balanced portfolio and a good shot at capturing some of that upside. Okay, I mean, that's kind of a whole other. I'm just talking about the innovation. The innovation that's taking place in some of this stuff is just absolutely world class. I mean, when was the last time Google did anything? Well, they made an AI thing. Oh, wow, good job, right? Good, you made a search bar. Whoa, real great stuff there. You look at some of these teams of 2 or 3 guys. Most of them aren't even being paid, by the way. And you look at some of the stuff they're creating, and you're going to just either ignore it. Why? Because it doesn't make a loony a day in mining rewards. You're going to just ignore this whole thing. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, AOL. Yeah, it's the same shit, right? Like, you look at what AI's done to these software companies. I mean, it's just absolutely overturned what many people, including myself, thought were these untouchable giants. Right? With so much money, with so much concentrated talent, how could they ever be unseated? And within a couple of years, you can just talk to Grok. And you don't even need to interface with Google at all. I mean, who would have thought, right? So, and the Max Payne trade for all that stuff has yet to come. And the true, what I've seen with AI anyway, is a reinforcing of crypto, because those AI agents, those developments we're seeing, well, they can't go to TD Bank or a JP Morgan and open up a bank account, right? They're not a human. You could argue that actually most Canadians aren't human; they're actually robots themselves. That conform to some of the most ridiculous policies, without question. But all jokes aside, these AI agents need to hold crypto as whether it's a stable coin, whether it is Bitcoin. That's really all. That's the only store of value they can really have. And there was a great article. I wish I could find it again, but the gentleman had alluded to the next 1 million users of crypto actually won't even be humans at all. It'll be agents of other people. So I found that interesting. I mean, not necessarily, actionable, but interesting fact to consider. And there's a whole host of examples similar to that. And I'm not trying to predict the future here or anything. I'm just saying AI saved crypto. It didn't save the mining rewards for the proof of work projects, but it certainly allowed the one developer to become 10 and 20, as I said a few minutes ago. And I think that in of itself is just insane. The productivity of the last remaining soldiers on the battlefield just became exponentially larger than when there was 50 guys in Kadena. Actually, sorry, I think it was 72 employees splitting $2 million a month. Besides counting their money, I don't think they were really doing much programming. And now AI has already had the packed algorithm completely, doing things that we didn't even know it could do. And they have the Telegram channel. That's where the active participants are. Their Discord is kind of closed. But again, now Kadena is more free than it's ever been. Warthog's hash rate's at an all-time low. Ergo, it's very expensive to mine, and most of it's been mined, right? So, it's whether you want to come in with a few dollars and get these assets for pennies on the dollar and kind of sit on the sidelines, whether you want to try and mine at a super small scale, or what have you. I mean, these are the great decisions that we will have to live with, whichever way we decide. I think it's just not important to focus on money where there is no money, right? So it's really back to the raw kind of stories of the days that I heard about from the guys that taught me all this stuff, which is, Bitcoin was worth nothing. So money was never part of the equation because it was more than that. And that's kind of, if I had to, that's the point we're at. And that's what I find so interesting. The absence of speculation, especially since that Binance confiscation with that leverage thing when they deleverage everybody, and then they wired it to Trump to pay the bribe for the pardon, which no doubt, in the next administration, I'm sure will come up in some kind of court filings and everything. But but anyway, okay, there hasn't been any speculation. Where are you going to leverage trade, Ergo, or Kadena, right? Handshake burned 50% of the supply. No one even cares. Now they're using AI to make the marketplace for the domains. And they did it with like a couple $100 and two guys. And it outperformed what took by hand a team of 5, 10, 15 guys, the ShakeStation, which went bankrupt, which is why they embraced AI to recreate it. And it was 10 times better than the original one built by hand. I mean, when you see those types of things, look, Warthog's DeFi was just completed like yesterday, right? That wasn't done by one guy. Obviously he's using AI for that stuff, whether he's going to say it or not. You know what? That's very true. Unfortunately, crypto is being used for Polymarket instead. Yeah. And left crypto as well. Exactly. And, whether you're gambling on the outcome of a Cuban invasion or on the outcome of an election or a soccer game, it's still gambling, right? And you could say, I hedge this, I hedge that. That's a whole different way to interact with blockchain as a whole. But yeah, that's a very good point, man. Yeah, thanks, Patrick. That's exactly it. Man. And here we are. I know there's still people out there, but you go on the Discords, it's a ghost town. You go on the Twitter, a couple guys posted some interesting stuff. We're doing weekend, we're still mining. You haven't expanded much in like a year and a half. This international with the sensor is going to be the first time in a while. Not really attracting any new capitals for shareholders in terms of investors. That's fine. But because the stock market's at all-time highs, they're the same guys who traded crypto. Now they're trading options. Now they're trading derivatives. Now they're trading stocks. As you said, that's exactly what's happening, right? And you're right. That dynamic, that shift it's been a violent rotation. It's been a multi-year change in things. And it's been a slow and steady drain of talent, unfortunately. But the talent is still, the hardcore of the hardcore are still there. And it's I find it fascinating. Who would have thought that a Zcash ETF would have been started by the Winklefuck twins? Jesus. Speaking of Polymarket, what were the returns if you created that one? Shit. It's crazy stuff. So how long until there's the other ETFs that I said there's got to be these ETFs. Now, everyone said the same thing I've been saying with crypto and its integration with things and what have you, and its day in the sun. Quantum computing stocks, space stocks, graphene stocks. Space stocks is the best place you can add your money for the last 3-4 years. And everyone said I was an idiot. I was crazy. and I don't talk about stocks much on here because my focus is more on the crypto side, the internal stuff, in the R&D department, in the hardcore research and development arm, okay, which is Pluto's, okay, rather than the research division, which is Trillium. Now, let's talk about stocks because it's the same shit. Everyone said, "What is graphene?" Oh, graphene's incredible. Well, one of the two of them hit. Both of them happened, right? Space, every single motherfucker hit huge. And when did I tell everyone to load up? Right as it was coming down. Load the boat. And now you got 6 space ETFs. You got Elon Cuck, fucking retard, got his stupid little exit liquidity with the SpaceX IPO, which is 70% Starlink revenue, not from launches. So it's really not a space company. It's really an Intellisat Future Chapter 11 that's coming, just like Tesla. Am I going to short it? No. Am I going to buy it? No. If any research client suggests it, I hang up the phone. If anyone tells me they've already bought it, I say goodbye. No, you couldn't pay me to buy SpaceX. I'd rather live in Cuba than to buy SpaceX or Tesla. Now, the basket of other space stocks that I've identified for years that underperformed the market for 2-3 years, but again, were never overweight beyond recognition in your portfolio. I mean, that was not my entirety of focus. That was my area of interest that I personally studied for a long time, Space Force budgets in particular, and before that, National Recon Office, et cetera, et cetera. I knew these companies when they were still private. I saw them at a pretty big opportunity, and now they're the best place to get your money for a long time. So, congrats on that. Well, why are you talking about fucking space? Well, there's a reason. Because that's crypto. 2, 3, 4 years now. It's been the dog. It's been forgotten. No one cares about it. It's misunderstood. And people call and say, "Hey, where should I put my money in?" And I keep telling everybody, and again, at a high level, it depends on the person. Everyone is bespoke and unique. So this is not a one size fits all, obviously. I'm not an index fund clown. Okay. And I never will be. If you buy index funds, please leave the room. Go drink your whatever the vitamin drinks you're drinking. So, long story short, what I'm getting at here, well, keeping it PG, is with crypto thrown in the garbage, forgotten by its family and friends, criminally undervalued, zero speculation, still innovation, research and development by the people that matter, with an absence of the people that don't matter. And I mean like the scammers, etc., the paid pumpers, all that stuff. Just like the space stocks. They're trading below cash value. They were trading below some of their press release of contracts. Like some of the contracts they were getting in 22 were larger than the fucking market caps. And people didn't want to buy it. And it was the best place to put your money. So, I sounded like an idiot till I didn't. And I know it's not good to double down, triple down, but what I'm saying is that as an overhead level, when people call me and say, "What is the cheapest thing in the markets right now? What is your eyeballs telling you?" I said, okay, well, it's not necessarily the time or the place to put it, but the cheapest thing based on valuation, let's say, which obviously isn't a good way to do things all the time, but it obviously is something that catches your eye. At that time, space stocks were trading at cash or below value. And obviously, in retrospect, was Planet Labs a good buy at $2? Obviously, right? Now, with crypto, when someone calls me, and today, if someone calls me today, if someone called me right fucking now and said, "Hey, Dick, what should I be doing?" My answer is always the same. It's been the same for, a couple of years now. in terms of what is cheap, what is undervalued, what is misunderstood, it is true for crypto. Now, when that thesis comes into fruition, I say, I don't know. I mean, are you going to put more than 2 to 5% if you're super risky, or sorry, if you're super, accepting and tolerant of risk? Sure. I mean, if you're risk averse, I tell you, go to bonds. Obviously, again, each person is different. I'm certainly not trying to paint a picture for everyone to do. But in terms of what is cheap, that's what's cheap. It's fucking beyond cheap. Every $100 is at least $1,000 of value if measuring against the past, if measuring against cost to mint, if measuring against the hardware securing these networks and the mining pools and this and that and this and that. And you really just, no matter, and again, with markets at all-time highs, this stuff's at all-time lows. And I know I've said this repetitively. When does that change? I don't know. And I have no problem saying I don't fucking know. Right? So, will the markets at all-time highs, is that a good place to go all in blindly? Of course not. Is crypto at all-time lows a good spot to blindly dive in the shallow end of the pool? No. But if you're not just starting today, if you have your hand in a few different cookie jars, you have to notice if you're truly evaluating all asset classes. And again, I'm not talking about proof of stake shit. I'm talking about proof of work stuff. I mean, you have to wonder, and this is where it gets a little bit challenging, especially if you have a bias like me where you actually like these assets beyond the money, where you really respect and appreciate this shit. Very hard to not take a little bite out of that apple, especially these levels. I made an article like 2 years ago, and I said crypto is going to be killed not by regulation or legislation, but death by 1,000 denied transactions, and that is through the ETF. None of these transactions are happening on chain, therefore killing miner revenue, therefore reducing hash rate, therefore reducing network activity, therefore people can say crypto's dead. That's exactly what the fuck's happened with the big ones, Ethereum and Bitcoin, which is like, 70% of the fucking market right now, of the total market cap. The rest is stable coins. Realistically, you're talking about under $2 billion, or let's say 20, under 20 billion US in organic holdings of anything but Bitcoin and Ethereum. Again, exclude XRP, that is the biggest scam since Enron. Let's say so, like a cash pool, it's like 800 billion market cap rate. That's these are peanuts compared to these other coins and to other asset classes. So, does the world embrace it? We don't know. Does the data look favorable? Well, it depends on your outlook. I would argue it's hard to find anything for under $1 nowadays. In fact, you can buy a coin that was mined, was produced, using all this hardware, never-ending, increasing cost of electricity, and all these things. But some of this stuff you can get for, you can get a Casper for 3 cents US, 5 cents Canadian. 25 cents Canadian right here. 25 cents. That will get you a GeoNet. If I walk into a Shell gas station, I assure you, I can get absolutely nothing with this quarter. To put it in perspective, the fact that, especially with these deep end projects, that's why I initially started this broadcast with mentioning that, is they're burning the candle at both ends. The emission for mining as well as the revenue burning the total supply from the back end, that it will never be issued into the open market is a powerful combination. And that's what's happening. You have GeoNet half mined, 50% emissions done, and 10% burned that will never be emitted. And as revenue increases, it's set to triple this year. You're talking about a very scarce supply, and rather quickly. No one talks about how much Casper has been sent to the burn address. Not a whole lot, really around here, but how much supply of Ergo is lost to these wallets. It's very hard and difficult to track. I mean, even with Bitcoin, with all the metrics from Glassnode and Messari and everything, you can really only estimate about 70% of the supply is lost in one way, shape, or form. Although it's so public with these ledgers and Audible and all these explorers, you can look at every fucking transaction you want, except for Monero, of course. But you look at this shit and it's like, look at all the supply that hasn't moved. Not all that is people like me just storing it in a safety deposit box somewhere. Some of it's got to be the guy's dead. The guy lost his keys. I mean, I've lost my keys for Ergo. I think I had, however much years ago. We've all done it. How much of the total supply of all these coins is just not retrievable? And when does it become important? For example, with Handshake, 50% burned. It's almost all mined, right? I mean, how much is lost in the ether? Never to be recovered. Picked up by some GFL truck and taken to the dump on some USB stick 3 years ago. For me, that's very exciting stuff to consider. Yes, it's true. Oh, yeah, ETH is gone. Yes, I know. I'm sorry. I am the wrong spokesperson for anything of actual complexity. Ergo has no coins. It is tokens. Ergo exists as a second layer on a contract. That's right. I remember Son of a Tech took that huge issue when it went from ETH going proof of stake and the merge happened and everyone switched to Ergo and it fucked up the chain. I remember that. Yeah, that's you're right. Sorry, Patrick, I forgot. Still, in the broader context, right? They're doing that Lithos thing again. Armenio is a must follow on Twitter. That guy has some really, really interesting stuff that keeps me up at night when I'm reading it. First of all, because I got to say, what the fuck is he talking about? And then it makes me run through AI and try to learn it real quick. But for the stuff I do understand, it's very interesting stuff. So, I like being the idiot in the room, as many people know me as the idiot in the room. But especially with computers, it's a never-ending learning curve. And although it intimidates some people, it's what excites me. And to see that hasn't stopped, right, is great. Yeah, the hardware improvements have kind of been minimalized. A 50 series, basically 2 30 series glued together or whatever the fuck, Moore's Law is kind of getting long in the tooth. And the software, essentially, AI can do so much with that same architecture, right? And it's always the improvements in the software that really define those improvements in technology, right? You got the same iPhone that has the exact same shit from 10 years ago, but the software makes it do incredible things that you couldn't do 10 years ago, if that's stupid. Now, again, I know I brought up that Canadian quarter. How about this? Here's some comment. Look, this is 80,000 pesos. Under $40 Canadian. I think $30. $25 Canadian. It's under $20 US. To think that some pensioner over there at one point This was, I mean, it must be quasi close to the dollars, right? That inflation, that unlimited supply shit. Solana has a 14% inflation rate. That has worse inflation than the Colombian peso annually. Unlimited supply. What else is unlimited supply? I don't know. All paper currencies. So anything with a fixed supply and a unique algorithm, I would argue, is a better place to put small amounts of money for safekeeping, because a sure bet is the paper money will lose value and purchasing power. Oh, you got to put a plural on that. I had lots of company. And I do look forward to going back for many other research and development spectacles. Anybody who sorry, I got lost train of thought there, thinking of other things. So one thing I want to take away from this shit is that it's been 4 fucking years. When this started, I had hair. But as research revenue hits records for equity market and portfolio construction, and everything we do on that side of the fence, primarily me, obviously, but and everything we do on there, having that second revenue stream continues to offset the declines in the crypto side of things. And that teeter-totter, I mean, if you had to compare, it would be like a 60-40 portfolio where people say it's 60%, right? And 60% stocks, 40% bonds. And that's exactly kind of what we've done here with that research. So, by the way, BGIN, which is Ice River, is now publicly traded. And then you have GeoNet and Dynex doing on-chain corporations, right? You can kind of see the two worlds are merging. There will be a 24-hour equity market, most likely traded on-chain. Yes, I actually was walking in my backyard having a smoke, and I had my shirt off. Someone called me in for Sasquatch. So yeah, my hair just kind of left here and migrated elsewhere. So no, but one thing that I think is very important is to not lose sight of the goal. The journey is more entertaining. It is more fun than the destination. I mean, all the volatility, all the lessons learned the hard way, all the business mistakes and wins and everything else, it all comes down to this, right? I mean, I'll be honest with you, the runway that I personally have, I mean, maybe to the end of the decade, I can keep everything going without turning a profit. And then, if Pat is throwing the towel on Trillium, I mean, I don't think there's going to be too many guys by that. But I mean, I'm a stubborn bastard. So, we're going to keep going until we can. I think we're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel before I run out of runway. Won't you join me? And let's keep proceeding into this realm of darkness, so it seems. As always, this broadcast is sponsored by Monster Camel cigarettes. Sorry, I have to thank our sponsors. Yes, Camel Turkish Gold, of course. Let's see, make sure. Okay, thank you, Camel Turkish Gold. All right. Thank you, Monster, for your exceptional flavor. And thank you to Trillium Capital for sponsoring this podcast. No, and thank you to everyone else who is a research client, who is a viewer, who has questions, comments, concerns, who is on the Discord, who is on the Telegram, who is on the Twitter. who calls in Texas, etc. I mean, just everybody in this closed circuit. Let's open it up. Let's open the doors up. Let's open the windows up. Let's really get people behind this before they put another dollar into XRP, the Enron of the digital age, or any, God forbid, 14% inflation Solana on leaving it on exchange, not even knowing that you can take custody of the shit. I mean, Jesus. So it all starts with education. I was fortunate enough to be educated, so I try to also do what I can to educate people about crypto and what it is and what it is not to the best of my ability, because I was, gifted a lot of that proper ideology, and there's only one way to do things right with a portfolio. And with crypto, there's only one true crypto, and the rest is not crypto. It's something else entirely. So, that being said, I just wanted to make the announcement on the international expansion. It is big news for us, although, just a drop in the bucket for the overall antennas deployed on these networks. It is first location spots for all four of those networks. So it is, in fact, a milestone, however small. For now, really just kind of taking small amounts of research revenue and purchasing the coins that we are, in fact, mining already seems to be a cheaper option than to try to compete with the ever-increasing carbon tax of mining. That doesn't mean we're not going to expand in the future. It just means that being very selective in the hardware we choose and where that, for the first time in our kind of company's experimental mining, for the first time ever, placing them in Canada is really not the automatic choice here. And the optionality of having it in Florida at Hawk's Place or Coastal Crypto, I don't even know if they still do it. I believe they do. But, having guys like that, those are infinitely more cheaper, stable, and more secure environments than us putting it in another basement, in another attic, in another, environment where it's going to cost more, and it's not really. There's so many points of failure and points of management that we just don't have the manpower for anymore. So those considerations really have me spinning in a loop in terms of what kind of ASICs to get for what purpose and what duration we want to aim for. So, like I said, Ice River KS0 it's still producing 2 a day, right? So times 10 is 20, 60 a month. You buy 600, you buy 6,000 cows per month. You're simply buying the tail emissions of something that you would need thousands of dollars in order to produce at an efficient rate, right? Or you go with a Bitmain ASIC, so I'm not saying we're being priced out entirely, but it has me really analyzing the situation through that lens. And we've mined enough, we've learned enough where understanding these algorithms and what it costs to mine them is arguably the best point to originate the thesis in terms of which ones are the least valued by the market and which ones could skyrocket based on those facts. Obviously, combined with all the other features that form our model. However rudimentary or however basic that may sound to all of us, because we're all mining ever, but that's kind of the way. It's a big change for me, right? Because we never had profitability day to day in mind. We kind of been forced to adapt and adjust to things that I didn't really forecast happening so rapidly. And so that's kind of that rapid change has made me take a step back and slow down, right, and just evaluate the battlefield. It's been that way for a year, 2 years, and that's been a very good strategy for us because there's many times where you could have jumped the gun and gone over here and gone over there and fell for that and fell for that, when actually just standing still has saved us a lot of bullshit. The main thing is to stay in the game, and so that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, Sorano got a bunch of 50 series chips. I haven't upgraded the new CPUs. Haven't upgraded the ASIC chips, and I don't give a fuck. Keep running when I'm going. If it breaks down, let it break down. Throw it out the fucking window. Okay, we'll take the research revenue. We'll compensate. We'll offset that loss in production. By other means, until I figure out the fucking game plan. And I think future of mining is going to be really small, really efficient, dense units, and you just kind of plug them in, like the Ice River model. That 100 watts, 200 watts shit, and it just perpetually secures that network. I think that's going to be the way to go. And I've talked to Ice River about this. And if they were to do something like that, I'll fucking buy a metric fuck ton of that shit. Because 28 shareholders, right? I can buy 28 of each of those small units, put them at all those places, and no one even fucking knows they're running because they use such little juice. It would even make the decentralization of these networks go through the fucking roof. Right? Because that could mean the average Colombian guy can do it. The average Venezuelan guy can secure this shit. Right? 100 gig hash at a time on Caspa. 1 terahash over there, right, for Kadena. That's how you're going to bring these networks back to life. It's not through 3,000 watt Bitmain ASICs. It's going to be through 100 watt, 200 watt devices. Bespoke units, perhaps sold in a pack like a carton of cigarettes. Right? One of Kadena, a Caspa, bulk order box, and boom. And that's how we do it. I think that's a smart way to approach it from a manufacturing standpoint. I could be wrong, but I know that those small ASICs, they made a lot of money for those guys. I think they would be very, very stupid for ignoring something like that. All right. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Go see my fucking screen right now. No, I can't. Anyway. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking. All right. And I guess we'll leave it there. Sorry, I'm just talking. So, what's great about Helium Deploy, by the way, if you're going to do those sensor things to diversify the hardware portfolio, is they do global shipping. So we're going to ship this shit to the islands there, St. Vincent, whatever, or Colombia. They will ship it there. Now you're going to have to pay the DHL or UPS fee, but that's sell traditional miners too. But I think that's pretty cool. I mean, that makes it infinitely easier. So now what I used to say is, get your local friends and family and partner up and mine together, split the costs, keep things online. Well, now it's getting a little bit easier to do it globally. And with AI, it's getting that much easier to learn things. So let's stay positive and hope that one day profitability goes positive. Let's say, hopefully, one day crypto stops going down. I don't think it's going to be today, though. I'll tell you that much. But that's why we measure in years. not in months, not in quarters, not in days. And let's proceed. So, we are mining on. Stay online, stay solvent, keep accumulating, and let's keep carrying this battle flag to the other side, to the other trench. And best of luck. And again, it's not hard to get a hold of me. And again, any research services needed, feel free. Markets have done exceptional. Some of the work I've done in the markets is some of the best I've ever done. Led to the best returns ever for the client base. And, I hope to continue that run as we go forward here. So anyway, I'll have some publications soon, maybe on Substack or the website or what have you. And get back on this publication side of things here. So sorry for the absence, but here I am. So hopefully that provided some value. And I'll talk to you guys later. I'll keep you updated on the installs and all that shit. Okay, see you guys.